Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Families. They're supposed to be the people who lift you up, support you, and maybe annoy you a little during group chats. Not the ones who think you're too dumb to notice when they're scheming behind your back. Today in the rLounge, assuming other people won't notice rarely ends well. Up first, how creative your spouse can get when excluding the person writing the checks. Mother-in-law planned a family trip without me, so I canceled my funding and let her pay for it alone. My wife, 31 female, and I, 33 male, have been married for 5 years now. Overall, our relationship has been solid, but there's always been one persistent thorn in our side, my mother-in-law. From day one, she's made it abundantly clear that no man will ever be good enough for her precious daughter, and I'm just the latest disappointment she has to tolerate. Despite this ongoing tension, I've always tried to maintain a cordial relationship with her for my wife's sake. I attend family gatherings, engage in small talk, and generally try to be respectful even when she's making subtle digs at me. My wife is aware of the situation, but tends to downplay her mother's behavior, others saying that's just how she is or that she means well. Earlier this year, I received a substantial bonus at work. After setting aside money for savings and investments, I suggested to my wife that we should use some of it to plan a nice family vacation this summer. She was excited by the idea and mentioned that her parents had been talking about wanting to take a beach trip. I thought this could be a good opportunity to improve my relationship with my in-laws, so I suggested we could cover most of the expenses as a generous gesture. My wife was thrilled with the idea. She said her mom had always wanted to go to that resort on the coast, and this could be a great chance for everyone to spend quality time together. I agreed and set aside about $15,000 for what I expected would be a memorable family vacation. My wife mentioned that her mother wanted to help with the planning since she loves organizing things, and I didn't think much of it. A few weeks passed, and I noticed my wife was being oddly secretive about her phone. Normally, we're pretty open about our devices, not because we snoop on each other, but because we have nothing to hide. But suddenly, she was angling her screen away when I walked by, or quickly switching apps when I entered the room. When I casually asked about the vacation planning, she gave vague answers about how they were still figuring things out. Something felt off. One evening, I was using our shared tablet to look up some information when a notification popped up. It was an email from the resort we had discussed, confirming some details about the reservation. I opened it. The tablet is logged into our shared email account that we use for household matters. The email contained a detailed itinerary for a 10-day stay at the exact beach resort I had suggested. The reservation was for my wife, her parents, her 2 siblings, and their families. My name was nowhere to be found on the booking. I scrolled through the entire email, thinking there must be some mistake, but there was no mention of me anywhere. We have a shared cloud storage where we back up photos and messages, and I knew my wife's WhatsApp backups were saved there. I found a conversation between her and her mother from a few weeks earlier. "It'll be so much better without him there, just like old times." "I know, but how do I tell him he's paying but not coming?" "Just say it's a special family bonding trip. He'll understand. Besides, he works so much anyway." "True. He probably won't even notice we're gone." I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. Not only were they planning to exclude me from the vacation I was funding, but my wife was actively participating in the deception and even making jokes about it. I checked our joint account and discovered she had already transferred $3,000 as a deposit for the trip. That night, my wife casually brought up the vacation over dinner. She mentioned her mom had finalized most of the plans for the summer trip. When I asked about the details, she hesitated before responding that her mom thought it would be nice to have a special trip with just her kids and grandkids. She asked if I understood, framing it as family bonding time. I wanted to confront her with what I knew, but something held me back. Maybe it was shock, or maybe it was a desire to see just how far they would take this. So instead, I simply asked if I was still expected to cover the costs. She looked relieved and confirmed that yes, if I don't mind, it would mean so much to her mom, who isn't getting any younger and really wants this time with them. I told her that of course I would pay, because family is important. She immediately grabbed her phone and texted someone, presumably her mother, with the good news that I was on board with their plan. Over the next few days, I opened a new bank account and began transferring my savings there, leaving only enough in our joint account to cover regular monthly costs. I didn't want to be financially irresponsible and leave my wife stranded, but I also wasn't going to fund a vacation that deliberately excluded me. A few days later, my mother-in-law called me directly, something she rarely does unless she wants something. She thanked me profusely for being so understanding about the trip and explained how important it was for her to have quality time with just her children and grandchildren. Then she mentioned that since I was being so generous with the funding, they had decided to upgrade to luxury suites at the resort. She gushed about what a special trip it was going to be and how grateful that they were that I was just making it possible, even though I wouldn't be there to enjoy it. I gave some non-committal response and ended the call. Later that week, I discovered through more email notifications that they had added several expensive excursions to the itinerary, pushing the total cost of the trip to nearly $15,000. Neither my wife nor her mother consulted me about these changes. They simply assumed I would cover whatever they wanted. As the final payment deadline approached, my wife casually reminded me over breakfast that I needed to transfer the remaining $12,000 to our joint account. She mentioned the resort needed the full payment by the next day, and that she'd already told her mom I'd take care of it today. I assured her I would handle it. But instead of transferring the money, I called the resort directly. I explained that I was listed as the payment contact for the reservation, but would no longer be funding the trip. I asked them to notify the booking party, my mother-in-law, that the reservation had been canceled due to non-payment. The customer service representative was sympathetic and confirmed that they would only be able to refund the 30% of the deposit due to their cancellation policy. The next day, all hell broke loose. My phone exploded with calls and texts from my mother-in-law, who was absolutely livid. I let most of them go to voicemail, but the messages she left were filled with rage about how the resort had canceled the reservation and was only refunding a small portion of the deposit. When my wife came home that evening, she was furious. She demanded to know what had happened with the resort payment, and said her mom had called her crying because they canceled the reservation. She asked if I had forgotten to transfer the money. I took out my phone, pulled up the screenshots of the conversations with her mother, and placed it on the table between us. I told her I hadn't forgotten. I decided not to pay for a vacation I wasn't invited to. Her face went pale as she scrolled through the messages. She tried to shift the blame by asking if I'd gone through her private conversations. I pointed out that her concern seemed to be more about me seeing the messages rather than the fact that she and her mother were planning to use my money for a family vacation while deliberately excluding me, even joking about me not noticing they were gone. She stammered for a moment before claiming they were actually planning a surprise for me and I wasn't supposed to see those messages. I asked what kind of surprise would be revealed for a trip scheduled months in the future. I pointed to the timestamps on the messages, noting they were from weeks ago. She'd had plenty of time to tell me the truth, but instead had been lying to my face every day. And what kind of surprise involves her mother saying it will be so much better without me there? The next day, my mother-in-law sent a message to the entire family group chat, which includes me for some reason, claiming that I was financially abusing my wife by withdrawing support for the trip at the last minute. According to her, I had promised to fund this important family gathering and was now vindictively backing out, leaving everyone in the lurch. I responded by sharing the screenshots of their conversation with everyone in the chat. I stated that I'm happy to fund family activities that include me as part of the family, but I won't bankroll a trip that deliberately excludes me while making jokes at my expense. My wife eventually announced that she was still going on the trip and would pay her own way. I wished her a great time and mentioned that I'd be using my vacation days for a solo trip instead. She seemed surprised at my lack of anger, probably expecting me to beg her to stay home or try to work things out. Instead, I booked myself a luxury vacation to a completely different destination for the same dates as their family trip. When my wife found out, she suddenly wanted to talk things through and suggested I cancel my solo plans and join their family vacation instead. She explained they'd booked a more affordable version of the trip and everyone still really wanted to go. Her mom had said I was welcome to join them now. I asked if that was only invited because now they needed the money, and declined the offer, explaining I'd already made my own plans. She tried to downplay the situation, calling it a misunderstanding and saying her mom just wanted some special time with the kids, but now realized excluding me wasn't right. I pointed out that her mother hadn't had a change of heart, she had had a change of circumstances. When she thought I was funding everything, she was happy to keep me away. Now that she had to pay her own way, suddenly I was welcome. I wasn't interested in that kind of conditional inclusion. My mother-in-law made several attempts to get me to change my mind, even calling to tell me that my wife was struggling financially because of my selfishness in not paying for the trip. I finally blocked her number after that call. When they left for their budget version of the trip, I flew first class to my luxury destination and had an amazing time. I posted photos on social media throughout my vacation, showing the beautiful sights, gourmet meals, and exclusive experiences I was enjoying. When we both returned home, the contrast was stark. I came back refreshed and happy, with incredible memories and photos. My wife returned looking tired and irritated, admitting that the trip had been not what they expected because they had to cut so many activities due to budget constraints. She confessed that her mom complained the whole time about the hotel, and they couldn't do half the excursions they planned because they were too expensive. I later discovered through bank statements that my wife had secretly borrowed money from her siblings to cover her portion of the trip, promising to pay them back with our money. When I confronted her about the additional deception, she broke down and admitted that the vacation had been a complete disaster. Not only had they been unable to enjoy most of the activities they'd planned, but my mother-in-law had complained unnecessarily about the downgraded accommodations and blamed everything on me. They spent most days arguing in the hotel rather than enjoying the beach or each other's company. Her mom kept saying that I ruined everything and wouldn't let it go, eventually caused everyone to fight. I informed my wife that I would be separating our finances completely going forward. She could pay for her own family back for her vacation loans, and we would maintain separate accounts for personal expenses with a joint account only for household bills. She protested that it wasn't fair and claimed it was just one mistake. I corrected her, pointing out it wasn't a mistake but a deliberate choice to exclude me from a family vacation while expecting me to fund it. Then she lied to my face about it repeatedly. That wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern of dishonesty that I wasn't willing to finance. I've since discovered that my wife has been sending money to her siblings from her personal account to repay the vacation loans, leaving her unable to contribute fully to our household expenses. When I pointed this out, she became defensive and claimed I was being petty about money. She insisted she had to pay them back because they loaned her the money in good faith. I asked her about the good faith in our marriage, pointing out she was willing to take money from our joint funds, money I earned, to repay loans she took out to fund a vacation I was explicitly excluded from. She had no response. I'm not sure what the future holds for my marriage, but I know I won't go back to being the silent financer of my own exclusion. The moment the money stopped flowing, suddenly you're welcome to join the trip? That's not inclusion, that's desperation. You were never seen as part of the family, just the financier of it. Then she has the nerve to get upset about you seeing her messages instead of being horrified at her own behavior. That says everything. She's more concerned with being caught than with being cruel. She assumed you'd swallow the insult, fund the trip anyway, and stay quiet because that's easier for everyone else. When you didn't, the whole house of cards collapsed. Not because you did something wrong, but because the entire setup depended on you tolerating mistreatment. Have you experienced something similar? Share your stories with us in the comments below. Up next, you know how family drama usually peaks when someone accidentally reveals they ate the last slice of pie? Yeah, this was nothing like that. My brother-in-law is making claims that he knows my secret, and I don't understand. My brother-in-law, 30 male, is my sister's 29 female husband. We live on opposite sides of the country, and my sister and I aren't that close. So I'd say that we don't know each other very well. We see each other at family gatherings maybe a few times a year, and he's always come off as a very average, quiet kind of guy. Around 2 months ago, I received a text from him out of the blue. It wasn't to check up on me or asking how I'm doing. The message said, he's aware of what's going on, but that there was no need for me to worry, and he'd keep it hush-hush. I wrote a quick message back asking what on earth he meant, but all I received back was another reassurance that I had nothing to worry about, and that he was on my side. At that point, I gave up and assumed it was some weird joke, even though my brother-in-law has always been pretty serious. Recently, I was in a Zoom call with my parents and sister. The first thing my sister asked when she saw me was, "Are you going to tell everyone the truth, or just my husband?" Obviously, I was confused, and I mentioned the text message his brother-in-law sent me, but my sister still seemed angry at me, and I have no idea why. The next day, I called up my brother-in-law and asked him what the hell is going on with this. He was very cagey on the phone and just kept repeating rhetorical questions back at me, like, "Do you know what's going on?" I'll admit that I lost my temper at one point and snapped at him, since he wasn't giving me answers. That was a bad idea, since this morning I got a new text from brother-in-law telling me that he'd try to do me a favor that I clearly don't appreciate. He mentioned, "We'll see what happens this weekend," which is the next time we're all meeting for a late Thanksgiving. Honestly, I'm terrified. The thing is, I have no idea what my brother-in-law, could possibly be talking about. I don't live a very exciting life, and I mostly keep to myself. There's still a part of me that's scared of whatever truth he says he's about to reveal, even though I don't think I've done anything wrong. What do I do? TLDR, my brother-in-law is sure that he knows some secret about me, and he's threatening to reveal it. I have no idea what he could be talking about. How do I stop him or fix this? Let's get the community to weigh in on some of the comments. First up, my first thought was that you have a vindictive ex who posted nudes of you online or something, but that shouldn't make your sister mad at you, unless she's mad that her husband went looking for nudes online, and it's easier to be mad at you than at him. Second thought is that there's a porn actor out there that looks kind of like you, and he thinks he has blackmail material because he's an idiot. In any case, since your brother-in-law is clearly devoted to being a butt, call your sister. What the hell is your idiot husband doing? He's been sending me messages for months about keeping some secret quiet. I have no effing idea what he's talking about, but it sounds like he told you. So would you mind cluing me in? Another commenter says, rumors and more. Talk to your sister and tell her you have no idea what's going on for her to find out and tell you before they get together. Otherwise, the way things are stacked, you might be walking into a roadside bomb situation. The OP replies, it's going to be hard to talk to them. My family and I aren't close at all, and growing up, I always took the blame for everything that went wrong in our house. I'm really scared that my parents will believe whatever my brother-in-law tells them because I'm the troublemaker of the family. Update, 16 days later. Hi everyone. Just before Thanksgiving, I posted about my brother-in-law harassing me over a secret. Well, Thanksgiving came, and I was terrified. I almost backed out entirely and stayed in bed all day instead of going to the Zoom meeting. I did end up going in the end, and the first 20 minutes were incredibly awkward. My family and I aren't really compatible at the best of times, but there were silences that lasted minutes. Eventually, my mother gave in and said, we'd better get this over with. I've never been more terrified in my life. I somehow snapped my phone case in half because I fidgeted with things when I'm nervous. My brother-in-law started talking about how he'd tried to keep my secret for me, but I clearly wasn't grateful. And then he told everyone, you should know that she's gay. Everything got really awkward again, except for a different reason. My whole family already knows I'm gay. I have no idea how brother-in-law never found out before now. I don't get on with my family, but me being gay has never been one of their issues. It's something nobody bothers me about. And we don't talk about it. My sister lost it with him immediately and said, really? This is what you've been going on about? We ended up ending the Zoom call very early since my parents decided they were tired. I think they both just didn't want to deal with this anymore and were sick of me and brother-in-law. I've decided to block brother-in-law's number on my phone since other than this, we had no messages anyway, and I'm not going to be visiting my sister anytime soon. The fact that he spent weeks hinting, threatening, and acting mysterious just to reveal something your entire family already knew is honestly baffling. It sounds like he wanted to feel important or in control and chose you as the target because you're used to being blamed for things. That isn't fair, and it isn't okay. Your reaction, fear, confusion, dread, makes complete sense. Anyone would be shaken if someone kept implying they were about to expose some huge secret, and then for it to turn out to be that? Something you've openly lived with? It just shows how out of touch and self-inflated he is. Blocking him is absolutely the right call. Have you ever been terrified of a secret only to find out it wasn't a secret at all, or wasn't worth the stress? How did you handle it? Thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time. And please put your chair back where you found it.